Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
We remember this. Last Wednesday was a snow day in the South for many. That meant SEC football stadiums got the white treatment. Even Bryant-Denny Stadium. It didn't snow a lot here, but it snowed enough to make it pretty. Meanwhile, in Starkville and Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, and we'll watch a time-lapse video from Oxford where they got a lot more snow in these other stadiums. That's pretty when it happens. As long as you don't have to play in it, it's all good. But the snow is gone, at least for another day or so. Might have some more weather rolling in here, although it's 75 out there right now. Good evening, everyone. Weather in the South, it's great, isn't it? Welcome into Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris. Once again tonight, our program is brought to you by Buffalo Rock Bottling Company, and we've got outstanding Pepsi Next. I love that sound, and I love that taste even more. Pepsi Next has all the great Pepsi flavor that you love, but only 60 calories per 12-ounce can. That's 2/3 less sugar than regular Pepsi. Try it out the next time you're at your local grocery store. Well, hopefully the quicker that the weather gets out of here, if we do have some more in the next day or two, maybe it'll be the end of it because spring is right around the corner, Rodney, and that means we're back with football practice. Spring practice will open March 13th for Alabama. The Crimson Tide will practice one time before spring break, then they'll reconvene and they'll wrap up their 15 practices with the A-Day game on April 18th. A couple of weeks ago we talked some about spring football, but tonight, Rodney, we're going to preview the offense specifically. The next week we'll get into the defense with even more analysis than we had a couple of weeks ago. And let's begin with Lane Kiffin. How big is it that he returns for his second year as offensive coordinator, keeping that continuity in place? Even more things you would think that he'll put in as far as the offense is concerned. But there is a gaping hole for the second straight year. Alabama will be breaking in a new quarterback.
Well, I think, again, you hit the key word there, the continuity of it, Gary. He has a lot of familiarity with the players that are here. There's a lot of guys that need to replace, I think, 8 or 9 on the offensive side of the football, including a new quarterback. And certainly he's worked with Jacob Coker and the other guys that are going to be competing for that spot. Most of them, Blake Barnett, of course, the true freshman, will work with him here this spring. So, again, I think from a familiarity part of it, I think it's certainly very important.
That's the thing, though, when you put in a new quarterback, regardless of whether it's going to be a fifth-year senior or a true freshman or any of those players in between, you just never know how they're going to do until they play. Last year with Blake Sims, it certainly worked out well. Now, Alabama offense is losing a lot of players. Most of them are starters. Here are some of the key guys. You see the offensive lines taking a hit, a running back and fullback, of course, the wide receivers. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that played a lot of great football for Alabama that are gone. So, Rodney, I know Alabama recruits well. There's depth. But we're going to find out just how good that depth is because a lot of new faces are going to be on the offensive side of the ball, not just at quarterback.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, Gary, I think you mentioned the recruiting. I think Alabama has a lot of really talented young offensive linemen. I think this spring has certainly allowed them an opportunity to kind of develop and mesh together, and that'll be really huge. I think, you look at the running back core, I think it's, you lose T.J. Yeldon, obviously, but you have several back with Derrick Henry. Hopefully Kenyon Drake's going to be healthy. Bo Scarborough's a young freshman that, really has a lot of promise, and Tyron Jones, hopefully he'll return, and but a freshman coming in obviously won't be here this spring, but in the fall, Damian Harris. So they're going to have a lot of really good running backs, and you look at the wide receivers, they have some talented guys. Going to be very difficult to replace a guy like Amari Cooper, obviously, 127 catches, whatever it was for the season, and that's certainly going to be a lot of guys to replace, but they do have some young talent. And, I think, Gary, one thing, too, is this team will be a little bit different style than what we saw last year. I think maybe we'll see more, again, I know Alabama's always emphasized the running. I think last year they tried to emphasize more the perimeter. And I think this year, though, that we'll see more of the running attack.
The Olivia Newton-John game plan. Let's get physical. That's what you think they're going back to?
I think so.
All right, we shall see. Well, let's talk about replacing so many of those key contributors. And you know what? We already talked about this position a little bit, but let's talk more about quarterback. Of course, Jake Coker, the fifth-year senior, hopes to fill that void. But former Tide player, linebacker Nico Johnson, now with the Cincinnati Bengals, told an interesting story about one of Alabama's true freshman quarterbacks. Johnson was observing a workout in January and saw Blake Barnett, Alabama's true freshman from Corona, California, already on campus. Nico says he reminded him of former Arkansas, listen to this, Rod, and current NFL quarterback Ryan Mallett. He also said he has an arm like Mallett, and he was impressive off the field as well. Now, granted, he has never played a college football game. He's never even practiced at college. He'll do that for the first time on March 13th, but he is on campus, and he is a guy that has a lot of hype. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago, but, you know, is there a chance that Alabama could line up against Wisconsin in Dallas, Texas, with true freshman Blake Barnett under center?
Well, I mean, there's always a chance, Gary. It's certainly not something I would expect or put any money on. But, you know, you look at Blake Barnett, you talk about that comparison that Nico Johnson made. I mean, Ryan Mallett certainly was an outstanding passer. The thing about Blake Barnett is he is a much better athlete. He can move really, really well. Now, the question is can he really stand in there in the pocket, and does he have that Mallett type ability throwing? And if he can combine those two things, certainly you're talking about a guy that would have a lot of skills. But, you know, again, it's the experience factor, Gary, and it is good for him that he's here this spring because it allows him an opportunity to kind of get a feel for what's happening.
How about this, Rod? You mentioned Ryan Mallett. What if you added in, because he has it, like you said, the athleticism of another former Arkansas quarterback, Matt Jones.
Yeah, maybe not quite that fast, but he certainly is a guy that can make things happen with his feet. Blake Barnett can, and you know, he's just an outstanding talent. And I think one thing about him that I really like, just from the outside looking in, Gary, he seems to have those leadership qualities that you look for. Seems to have a lot of confidence.
Certainly, we don't want to diminish the other quarterbacks. They're going to have their shot as well. And as we saw last year with Kiffin and Saban, the best guy is going to play. Whether he's the media choice, the fans' choice, none of that really matters. So it's going to be a lot of fun going through spring practice watching these quarterbacks develop. And next week, we'll preview the defense and talk special teams as well. Alabama holds its first spring practice, as I mentioned, Friday, March 13th. And we'll have it for you. Well, good news for a former Alabama basketball player this weekend. Former St. Jude star, out of Montgomery, JaMychal Green was signed to a 3-year contract by the Memphis Grizzlies. Green just finished his second 10-day contract with the club. He'll now finish out the year and have 2 seasons left on his contract. So good news for JaMychal Green. Was a heck of a player at Alabama. Well, more to come on Tider Insider TV, including some discussion about this year's Hoops team. They're wrapping up their home schedule tonight as we speak. When we come back, we'll head to Coleman Coliseum and talk with Arjun Chapman about Alabama's senior basketball players and what they've meant to the squad. And also, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The information, as always, is posted there on your screen on how you can get in touch with us. So go ahead and give us a call now while phone lines are open. This is Tider Insider TV, and we'll be right back with more on WVUA right after this. Last week, Anthony Grant had the pleasure of telling Levi Randolph that he had become the program's first ever academic All-American. Levi was selected to the Capital One Academic All-American second team. The senior from Madison is working towards a master's in marketing. He's the only player from the SEC to earn the honor in men's basketball this season. What a great guy and outstanding player. So a great story for him tonight, as he is one of 3 seniors who will play their final game, Rodney, in front of the home crowd at Coleman Coliseum.
Thanks, Gary. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to ask Coach Grant about these 3 seniors and their contribution to the Alabama basketball program. And he started by speaking about Dakota Slaughter, a guy from Indiana who came to Alabama on an academic scholarship, but was a walk-on for the team. And it's those practice players that make all the difference.
Just what he provides on a daily basis in practice, his character, his leadership. I think he's been a tremendous asset to our team. Coop has been a guy that from day one has been an integral part of our team in terms of the playing time, just the opportunities to affect winning. And obviously for Levi, we found out last week that he's the first academic All-American in the history of Alabama basketball. And I think it speaks volumes just to what he's been able to accomplish over his 4 years, not only as a player, but also in the classroom.
It's just a great opportunity to be able to play for your home state, to try to represent, where you're from. So it's a good feeling to be able to play here, and I've just enjoyed my time and tried to leave as best of legacy as we could. And, we decided to come together, playing AU ball together. Coaches recruiting us, and we just felt like it's the best place for us.
I feel like it's a blessing to have this opportunity to play here. Like Levi said, we just want to leave our legacy here, place a footprint on this university. So it's just a blessing just to have this opportunity.
As Randolph alluded to, he and Cooper played together for many years before they both chose the Crimson Tide. Tonight, that duo wants to close out their tenure in Tuscaloosa with a win. Reporting from Coleman Coliseum, Jen Chapman for Tider Insider.
Thank you so much, Jen. Great report. And here's a look at how the Tide is doing. So far, so good. With about 1:50 to go in the first half, Alabama on top of Ole Miss, 30-24. The Tide will close out the regular season on the road at Texas A&M, and then it's off to Nashville for the SEC tournament. And much more coming up here on Tider Insider Television, including a check-in on Alabama baseball after their weekend series against Louisiana Lafayette. And next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us tipv@wvuatv.com, or reach out to us on Twitter using the hashtag TiderInsiderTV. We want to hear from you as we're back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV, right after this timeout. This past weekend, it started out well for Alabama baseball against Louisiana Lafayette at the Hoover Met. The Tide knocked off the Cajuns 6-4 on Friday in the first game of the weekend series, but back-to-back losses, including a 14-2 whipping on Sunday, dropped Alabama's record to 7-4 heading into this week. And here's how the week stacks up for Mitch Gaspar's crew. Alabama playing in Montgomery tonight, Riverwalk Stadium in the Capital City Classic against arch-rival Auburn. Now, that game doesn't count in the SEC standings, but it certainly counts in the minds of the fans of the two schools. And Friday through Sunday, look at this, Alabama taking their fill on the road down to Mobile to take on Lipscomb. So with the Tide playing most of its games at Hoover this year, still though, they're going to head down to the Port City, which should be a lot of fun this weekend down to Mobile. All right, Roddy, time to jump on the phone lines for the first time this evening. We're starting off over in Anniston with our buddy Harold, who is with us often. Harold, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, hanging in there, man.
Hey man, I was wondering, I look at some of these Big Ten schools, man. They have great basketball and football programs, and I look at the SEC. It's really only one school, Florida, that has, here recently had great football and basketball teams. Do you think that's more of a regional thing, where better basketball players are up north and better football players here in the South?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I think if you go back through time, though, you'll see where you mentioned Florida. They had national championship caliber programs at the same time. LSU's had strong programs at the same time. Alabama's had strong programs at the same time. Tennessee's had strong programs at the same time. Yeah, I do think there's probably overall maybe a more of a commitment in terms of basketball at the high school level up north than there is in the South. The flip side is, a lot of high school football players here more so maybe than in the northern part of the country. But I certainly don't think you can rule out any school in the SEC being good in both at the same time. And I believe Alabama can do it, Rodney. Yeah. They've done it in the past, and I think they can do it again.
Well, there was a time, Harold, when Alabama in the 70s certainly was having great success in football, also in basketball. They were one of the top 5 winningest programs in the country there for a stretch during the 70s. So, again, like Gary said, Alabama's had success in both sports simultaneously in the past, and, I think that's certainly a possibility in the future.
And let me say this, because I know Harold's asking about the SEC overall, but specifically I know he's concerned with Alabama, and there is a commitment here. Anthony Grant's making nearly $2 million a year. They spent right at $40 million on Coleman Coliseum about 10 years ago to completely renovate it. They want to win here. They want to win in men's basketball. Make no mistake about it. All right, Harold, thanks for the call. Let's go over to Birmingham and talk to Bill. Bill, what's up with you tonight?
Hey, good evening, guys.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, when Bo Scarbrough was being recruited, Rodney mentioned that he, amongst the players at that time, he was probably one of the most athletic. Could you kind of break that down a little bit and sort of clarify that for us? Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, I'll let Rodney do that in just a second. I want to say this on a personal level, having watched him in high school for several years. Of course, his senior year was spent part of the time in Florida, then he came back to graduate here. But when he was at Northridge High School, again, you've got to make it carry over to the next level. You got to work hard. You got to do the things that you need to do to be better. But as an athlete, Bill, I'll tell you this: he's a freak athlete. I mean, this kid, and Rodney and I, we've talked about this before, and I know you'll back me up on this. He's got all the athletic ability in the world. He takes off his shirt. Not that you play football without a shirt, but he's what I'm saying. It's like a Bo Jackson type physique. I mean, he is a splendid athlete. He's big, fast, athletic. I mean, he's got the total package.
You know, he's 235 plus pounds. You know, he's got great speed. And, you know, when you look at him, he can do so many different things. I think I've said in the past, he kind of reminds me of a bigger, maybe a jumbo version of Kenyon Drake from the perspective that he can, you know, you can line him up at tailback and toss him the ball. You can, you know, split him out wide. He can create some mismatches there in the slot. Wherever you want to line Bo Scarbrough up, he can certainly do it. I think, you know, he's even a guy that could return kickoffs. You know, he's just extremely versatile. Gary, great athlete. And I think, you know, I had an opportunity to talk to Roy Upchurch, who is now at IMG Academy where Bo had played. And, of course, Roy, the former Alabama, you know, running back who is now an assistant down there. And he told me he thought Bo Scarbrough had an opportunity to really be a special football player on this level. And, of course, now let's not forget, Upchurch was an outstanding player. He played with Trent Richardson. You know, he played with Mark Ingram. He's seen some really good running backs, and he thinks Bo Scarbrough has a chance to really be a special player.
Well, let me just say this. In terms of athletic ability, and again, he's done nothing at this level. So I'm not making a prediction. Right. I'm just saying in terms of athletic ability, I think he could play strong safety, free safety, outside linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, running back. I know that sounds crazy, but I think size, speed, strength-wise, Rodney, he could play any of those positions.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
And look, let's be clear. I think he's going to be a running back, and you know they'll move him around some as a receiver, I think. But you know, I think when you look at Bo Scarbrough, certainly he's a guy that's extremely talented, has the great size and speed, and all those things that it takes.
Now let's see what he can do when he gets out there in the spring. All right, more to come on TITV, including Alabama's top 5 softball team taking on an early season opponent. We'll update you on how they did, a top 5 opponent as well. And coming up, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the information posted there on your screen. Phone lines are open, so give us a call. We'll be back right after this. We talked about Bama baseball taking on Louisiana Lafayette. It was also the Ragin' Cajuns as an opponent for Alabama softball as well. Patrick Murphy and company won 2 out of 3 against 5th-ranked Louisiana Lafayette over the weekend. Alabama won on Sunday in walk-off fashion as Haley McClinney's sac fly gave the Tide a 3-2 win. Alabama improved its record to 15-4 on the season. Here's the schedule for the softball team this week. And listen to this. They open up SEC play this weekend at home against Ole Miss, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's on in the SEC. Next week they have a midweek game against UAB. All right, let's go back to the phones. First, let's take some emails, Rodney, that we've got that have been sent in to us. Let's start with this email from Lenny in Calera. I think we talked about right tackle a few weeks ago, but he wants to know who will start at right tackle, and that is a position that Austin Shepard held down well the last couple of years.
Really
but
did.
Now there's a lot of different guys. Let's start with the junior college transfer.
I think Dominique Jackson has a great chance to start. I think he has a lot of potential. Number 76, you see him there in the video, and you know he's a really big, strong guy, and you know he's got a little experience now here in this system. So I think you watch him. Grant Hill's another one, number 64, who is you know played right tackle some, is very versatile, could end up at guard in the spring. We'll see, but you know those are a couple of guys.
Yeah, a lot of numbers to choose from on the offensive line. That's the good news, and good news for you at home. Phone lines are open. We don't say that very often on Tide or Insider TV, but if you want to call in right now, you'll get through 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Phone lines open right now on Tide or Insider TV. In the meantime, we've got another email. This is a basketball question from Joe in Birmingham. Will Design Ingram be able to make an immediate impact next year? I think he will. Outstanding player out of Theodore down in the Mobile area. Led his team to the Class 7A semifinals where they lost a heartbreaker in overtime to Mountain Brook. I think he had 12 points and 14 rebounds in that particular game. The thing about Design Ingram, he's about 6'4". He's big enough, Rodney, to get his shot, you know, get to the rim, but he also can help out players as far as getting them the basketball, facilitating the offense. I think he's an extremely talented player, and I think he's a guy that can help and make an immediate impact for Alabama next season. All right, let's go to the phones. We've got a call coming in right now, and he'll be with us in just a minute. In the meantime, we'll watch Design Ingram do his thing some more. And Alabama has 3 outstanding prospects coming in for the state of Alabama. In addition to Ingram, they've got Brandon Austin coming in from Carver Montgomery. He was the Class 6A state tournament MVP. And Dante Hall, the outstanding shot blocker from down at Luverne, and could add somebody in the spring period. All right, let's go to phones. And Ella is with us next. Hey, Ella, how are you? Welcome into the program.
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, I am a big softball fan, and I wondered why we haven't been able to see any softball on television. Now we've got a big series of Ole Miss coming up. Do you know if we're going to get to see any of those?
Well, you can't see it on our station anymore, and we would love to be able to show it to you, Ella. The SEC network now, of course, is in place, and they have, you know, domain over SEC sporting events. So I know a lot of people have been calling me about softball and WVUA because we've been able to bring it to you for a number of years. But a lot of games are going to be on the SEC network. They're going to be on ESPN. They're going to be on different cable channels. This weekend coming up, SEC Network Plus, which is available on your computer, on your cell phone. Those games will be televised. I'm going to be fortunate enough to do the play-by-play this weekend, as a matter of fact, for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you'll just have to check your listings, but a large majority of these games for Alabama this year, Ella, are going to be televised. So not on our station, but on a lot of other different outlets, including the SEC Network. Well, more still to come here on Tighter Insider TV. Next up, we'll check in on Dana Duckworth's gymnastics squad. We're live on a warm night here in Tuscaloosa. It's warm, but it's going to be turning cold again. Then it's going to be turning warm again. You just never know in Alabama, do you? We'll be back after this. Well, it had been 49 meets since Alabama had lost at Coleman Coliseum. That is until this past Friday night. The LSU Tigers came in and snapped that streak. But you know what? That makes sense, I guess. They had been the last team to win at Coleman Coliseum. And then they're the team that knocks off Alabama to 49 straight wins. But you know what? Turn the page. That starts with this weekend, 2 meets, Missouri on Friday night at home and Auburn on Sunday in Birmingham, a schedule that will prepare the Tide for the postseason.
I think it's a huge opportunity to work on your endurance because at the national championship, it's 2 days in a row. And having the day in between is going to make it a little tricky. But I think it's a wonderful preparation for multiple days in a row, seeing the consistency over a couple days of competition, and to show the ladies that they're a lot tougher than they may think they are.
All right. How about that? Friday night at Coleman Coliseum, Sunday against Auburn in Birmingham. All right, that's going to do it for the program. Thanks to all of you for watching. And tonight we are headed to Buddy's Rib and Steak. Remember, Buddy's is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Huge portions. Come out and meet us about 7:15 tonight. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Good night, everybody.